Now let's look at the next example. This paper is based on the same topic and text. However, as you can already see, just glancing at it, it's written a little differently. So go ahead and take a moment to read this again and think about how you would rate this student. So, how did you score the student in purpose, focus, and organization? The State Department said that this person would receive 2 points. They said the student had difficulty with transitional strategies and the organization of their ideas. So what about evidence and elaboration? How do you think this person scored in this area? The State Department said this student would receive 1 point. As I'm sure you noticed, the student was on topic. However, nothing from the text was used as part of the essay. She had evidence, but it was her own evidence and not evidence from the text. And so let's look at what she wrote that wasn't from the text that really impacted her score. So she does mention Florida and Alaska National Parks, and as you can see, she attempted a cookie cutter method to write this. And she said that Alaska has animals loose, in which in the text it did talk a little bit about how they had wild animals. But then she goes on to say that she would not go there because she would be afraid of getting killed in the national park, and that is terrifying. So while that may be her opinion, it doesn't really relate to what the topic is. So, and also, if you notice at the top of the paper and at the bottom, she used quotation marks, and that is not needed either. So let's look at conventions. The State Department said that she would receive 1 point. And the reason is because, if you notice, she had an inconsistent use of punctuation and capitalization. So now that we've looked at the writing rubric, let's discuss what that means for us as teachers. The most important piece of information that I can tell you is that you need to teach the standards and teach what is specific for your grade level. Whenever you're teaching writing, keep in mind that integration will be the key. The students will not be able to learn everything they need to know with writing in just a 30-minute block without the ability to practice the skill in multiple areas. Another suggestion is that when you're grading student papers, you should make the student edit their paper until they have a 10. Now that doesn't mean you send the student back to their desk and say, nope, it's not a 10, and make them keep doing it over and over until they do, because that is not best practice. What it means is you should have your small group set up so that you can guide students and show them what their essay looks like and sounds like when it is a 10. Also, citing is extremely important. This should be practiced in every subject. Remember, text evidence is what is important, and the elaboration is why it is important. When you put this together, that's synthesizing. We also need to make sure that we are teaching students how to paraphrase. I know in the past, most of us have taught students to use a specific way to write essays, and that was what I called a cookie cutter approach to writing. We told the students you need to start with your introduction, give one reason, reason two, end with your conclusion. That's no longer how we should be teaching students how to write. We can still use some of the old teaching styles, such as they do need all those pieces, but not in a robotic way. We also taught students to have a hook. While I still like having hooks, using rhetorical questions at the beginning of the essay should not be used at all. What students should be able to do is use the text to guide how they organize their essays. Again, you can still use the old format, but it definitely needs to be tweaked to fit what the students need. Some of the other instructional techniques the State Department recommended is RAFT, DDQs, and LDCs. Remember, we are teaching students not just how to write stories. We're teaching them how to write in an academic manner, and this will prepare them for their future careers. So one major question asked many times was, what is considered a passing score? And will it be included with their ELA score? The answer at that time was, we're not sure about that. They're also not sure about plagiarism and how that will be viewed. So the best advice that I can give is to teach plagiarism the same way that we were taught when we were in college. We will get the writing scores in the usual manner, but we were told we would not get our writing scores until the summertime. However, as we know, that may change. It was also suggested that students should start in kindergarten learning what they're going to be expected to know by fourth grade, which is why all of you are here with us today and not just fourth and fifth grade. It was also suggested that other grade levels could possibly be added next year. So again, I'm going to reemphasize, go back to one of the strategies that I personally felt was extremely helpful, which was the ACE strategy. They said you could use different colors to show each part of ACE. So as you can see, I give you an example of answer, cite, explain. The answer is red, cite blue, explain green. It doesn't really matter what color you use, but what is important is that it is consistent throughout the school. So whenever a student goes from grade level to grade level, they don't have to keep learning a different color. All right, so hopefully everybody's learned a lot about the new expectations. And if you have any more questions or concerns, please feel free to come see me. Have a good day.